Ladies and gentlemen, as we begin our services, if we can please kindly turn off all cell phones or electronic devices, or please place them on silent. Thank you.
Good morning, first of all, and thank you for being here, Rabbi David Englander, Congregation Bethel, here on behalf of our clergy team. First of all, our Rabbi Emeritus and close friend to the family, Rabbi Aaron Krupnick, who's here with us today, as well as Rabbi Sam Hollander, who is still out of town from the holiday weekend, and goes without saying, our Chazan, Lisa Pomerantz-Borough, who's thinking of you, is with you, wishes that she could be here as she continues to recuperate and regain strength. It will not come as any surprise that we will turn to the liturgy of the Jewish funeral service, because Malcolm was a dedicated servant of the Jewish community, an exceptional leader within it. Many of the stories of his life are just bound up in connection to tradition, to Jewish organizations, to synagogues. And so we are here to do what he would expect, which is to couch these sad but meaningful moments within the rubric and structure of our Jewish tradition. And so it's my unwelcome and sad, yet also deep honor to share the two of the Psalms that have long been associated with Jewish funeral services. The first is Psalm 15. Describes from the psalmist's perspective some of the aspects of what it means to live and build a good life and ultimately to leave a most meaningful legacy. And I know that in hearing the psalmist's descriptions, you will be reminded of some of the commitments and dedications strongly exhibited and demonstrated by Malcolm through his life. Psalm 15 reads, Mizmor LeDavid. Adonai mi yagor bo'alecha mi yishkon b'har kadshecha Holech tamim ufod tzedek v'dover emet bi'ovavo lo ragal l'shono lo asa l'rei ra v'cherpa lo nasa krovo nivzeh beinav nimas v'et yirei Adonai yechabed nishba l'harav lo yamir kaspo lo natan beneshech v'shochad al naki lo lakach oseh ele lo yimot le'olam, a Psalm of David. Do we deserve to enter God's sanctuary? Can we merit a place in the presence of God? Live with integrity, do what is right, speak the truth without deceit, have no slander upon your tongue, do no evil to others, do not mistreat your neighbor, spurn a contemptible person, but honor those who revere Adonai. Never retract a promise once made, though it may bring you harm. Practice all of your business fairly, accept no bribe against the innocent, make these deeds your own, then shall you stand firm forever. Perhaps most famously, Psalm 23, describing the valley of the shadow, interpreted for years as the valley of the shadow of death, the aftermath of significant loss. This journey in a darkened world that is traveled with the support of so many friends, extended family, holding up these mourners as they walk this path of the mourner, buoyed by beautiful memories and by the strength that doesn't leave this world, and certainly by the love that continues to reverberate. Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai ro'eh lo echsar b'no desher b'tzeini amei menuchot yinahaleni. Nafshi yeshovev yancheni v'maglei tzedek leman shemo gam ki elech b'geit somavet. Lo yirara ki ata imadi shivtecha umishantecha hema yinachamuni. Taroch lefanai shulchan neged sorai dishanta v'Hashem en roshi kosi ravaya. Ach tov v'chesed yirdefuni kol yemei chayai v'shavti b'veit Adonai le'orech yamim, a Psalm of David. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. God makes me lie down in green pastures and leads me beside the still waters. God restores my soul. and guides me in straight paths for God's name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil, my cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. A few speakers today to offer words of reflection and no doubt praise and tribute. Malcolm's life and legacy. Les will lead us off.
Good morning. On behalf of my mom and I, thank you for being here. So I asked my mom what Dad's favorite dessert was. She instantly responded, key lime pie. So shout out to all you Floridians. I guess that's what you can expect from a 59-year marriage, knowing each other's favorite dessert instantly. My dad had a bit of a sweet tooth. My dad also had diabetes, so it's not an ideal combination. But whenever we did share a family meal at a restaurant, he was quick to share in the table dessert. Last week, I was chatting about my dad with people who knew him very well. It made a real impression on me when I heard the exact same words mentioned over and over again. Your dad was a sweet man. They weren't, of course, talking about his taste for sugar. They were remarking on his essence. My dad was a sweet man. So just been thinking back, when Chuck and I, when we punched a hole in the drywall, when we prank called the fire department, we were a little more nervous about when Mom found out. Not as much Dad. Dad was a little more of a softie. A few weeks ago, as his 59th anniversary was approaching. Did I mention 59 years? Kind of think that sort of says it all. At that point, my dad couldn't leave the house, but I can tell you that his number one concern was, how is he going to have a card to give to Mom? It's pretty sweet. As many of you know, my dad was a great lawyer. I could tell that from a very young age, hanging out at the office. I'd see the same clients year after year. Not to mention his partnership with Joanne and with Betty for decades upon decades. How can you measure whether someone is a great lawyer? It's not the wins and the losses. There's just way too much unpredictability there. It's not how long your briefs are. There's many lawyers who charge by the hour. It's loyalty, right? Clients knowing that they are getting the honest and utmost quality of service, knowing that they'll hitch their wagon to the same lawyer for all their legal needs for their, year after year. And the loyalty of coworkers and of business partners who would choose to spend their whole career with the same person. Sweet and loyal. So that's my dad's legacy. The ingredients that make up a marriage of 59 years. The ingredients that raised two sons who chose to enter the same profession as their dad. The ingredients that created a special bond with Charlie and Molly that you will plainly see imprinted upon the photographs that you'll get to see displayed today. These kiddos just meant the world to him. So much so that he was willing to play in a soccer game just a couple of years ago, much to their delight. It was definitely not the plan he had made for himself that morning. My dad loved to kid around, as many of you know, another gift that he has bestowed on his grandkids. Charlie would also often accuse him of being such a joker. Molly always teased him with an exasperated pop hop. I think this is just another way that he connected with people that made you feel at ease all around him. Even as he grew weaker, he went to great lengths to lighten the mood with a funny observation or a playful tease. With his quips and Uncle Phil's jokes, our holiday table was always a pretty funny place to be. So, as we all gather up with loved ones this holiday season and tempt ourselves with cakes and pies, let's all save a fork for my dad, Malcolm, a real sweet guy.
Marv Schlanger will be our next speaker.
Good morning. My name is Marv Schlanger. For more than 53 years, I have had the privilege of calling Malcolm my friend. Everyone who knew Malcolm quickly learned about what I call his quiet strength. As Les said, this served him well in a very successful career as a lawyer. His clients knew they were well represented, and its practice was built on long client relationships and frequent client referrals. But above all, it was his family who could rely on Malcolm as a source of strength, no matter what the occasion or need. Phyllis, you and Mal were a perfect complement to each other. He provided you with support, and you took care and watched over him, not only in the last few months as his light flickered, but as far back as I can remember. He loved your care, and he really, really appreciated it. When you and Mal moved to Texas to be near Les and Mary, you created a new life for the two of you. On our visits to Austin, it was clear to Eva and I that you had succeeded. Mal loved his family and thrived being nearby. It gave him energy and purpose. But there was a lot more. Few of Malcolm's friends realized he really had an adventurous side, particularly if it involved getting quality time with his family. Take camping, for instance. Whenever I asked him why a city guy, like a Jewish lawyer from Cherry Hill, would haul around a camper or sleep in what might be called less than glamorous accommodations, or live in the woods, he would tell me, I did it because the kids loved it. And Malcolm also had a pretty good but somewhat subtle sense of humor. I love to hear him tell the stories of his courtship of Phyllis. Mal was a bit older, what Phyllis's mother called an established man. He would call on Phyllis wearing a sport jacket, tie, and a hat. I only wish I could have seen that. Phil, Les, Mary, Charlie, Molly, today there's a hole in each of your hearts. There are no words that any of us can say that will fill that hole. I only hope that you can take some measure of comfort from knowing that our lives were made richer by calling Malcolm our friend. He loved you, you loved him, we all loved him also. And as the great Rabbi Jonathan Sacks taught us, those we loved and lost live on in us, as we will live on in those we love. For love is as strong as death, and the good we do never dies. Malcolm, dear friend, rest assured that your memory will be for a blessing for your family and for all who knew you.
We're next going to ask Bob Cohen to come forward.
Good morning, everybody. These are tough words to follow. I first met Malcolm around 1977 as an adversary. It was the first time I had to go to court in New Jersey. I was with a large, mean, voracious Philadelphia law firm, and I come up against this guy, Malcolm. Malcolm. He wouldn't go away. Malcolm was tenacious. He was fierce. He was ethical. He was good. He was crafty. He was a pain. But I met Malcolm. And then I moved into 614 Haddonfield Road in another office, and we were in the same building. After that, we began to share space. After that, we were forced to move, and we were co-tenants in space on Springdale Road. So we went to being co-tenants, and then we started working together on some files. So we became co-counsel, and then we eventually merged our practices and became partners. But most importantly, through this process, we became friends. And I learned throughout our friendship and throughout all these years, and I had no idea in 1977 I'd be standing here today. No idea. But I learned that Malcolm never quit. Malcolm never gave up, and Malcolm had to live with Gaucher's disease and diabetes, as Les talked about, with his sweet tooth, battling that. And he was in pain for years. When I met him, through the time we co-occupied, he walked with a limp, and in my mind, it had to hurt him. But he never once complained. Malcolm never complained. Malcolm was always happy with his lot in life, always. Eventually, he got his hip fixed. I didn't realize how important our everyday lunches were until his doting, loving wife, Phyllis, called me one day and said, "Robert, you know, he still needs to eat lunch." And lunch I brought to their house so we could dine together and have lunch. And I don't know if we did it more than once until he came back, did we? And throughout all the years, we had lunch together every single day, and we talked about everything that was going on in the world, in our lives, with everything. I don't think we talked about work during lunch. This was our escape from what goes on in our office per se, and was just a chance for the two of us to get together. But what I've learned and saw through Malcolm, he was a role model for me, and not intentionally a mentor, but a mentor. Because I learned through Malcolm, persistence counts. I also saw a relationship that Malcolm had with Phyllis that was, to me, an ideal. There are very few people who achieve a relationship with their mate, their soulmate. We have a word for that in the Jewish religion, and it's a Jewish concept, but I believe with you and Malcolm, it was to be, because you held hands. Sometimes you even dressed the same. I thought at points I didn't understand that. I do now. I do now. It's an ideal. It's a goal. It is part of the wealth that Malcolm achieved. Not only was Malcolm a successful lawyer, but Malcolm in so many personal ways achieved wealth that most of us can only dream for or dream of. He had loving boys who emulated him, went to law school, moved to Texas. Why don't you become governor? Loved his grandchildren. Every time I talked to Malcolm on the phone, I'd hear about his grandchildren. I'd hear about Charlie. I'd hear about Molly. I would just hear and hear and hear, and he would fell, and he would talk about all their accomplishments. It just wouldn't stop. It was wonderful to listen to. But again, Phyllis, his devotion to you whenever we talked, whatever we were doing, whatever negotiation we had, whatever important decisions we made together, you were a silent partner. Sometimes not so silent, actually. I'm told I have a 5-minute time limit on me, so I don't want to get into the chronology year by year by year and thing by thing by thing, other than to say, Malcolm loved his sons, loved his grandchildren, above all, loved you, Phyllis. And Malcolm knew he was blessed. He was grateful for everything he had. And we Jews believe that a wealthy man or a wealthy person is someone who knows, who accepts and is happy with their lot in life. Malcolm was grateful every day for his lot in life. We also are taught that a long life is not good enough, but a good life is long enough. Malcolm had both. So Malcolm, I will miss you. This is another situation, your favorite word, that you've gotten us together for. I hope, and I know, and I pray, that your neshama will have an aliyah in Shemayim. And take care, Malcolm. Thank you.
Sure, on behalf of everyone here, thank you so much to Les and Marvin, Bob, for not only putting together, but finding the strength and focus to say those beautiful words of loving tribute to someone so incredibly special to you and to so many others. I want to start by saying that while I did not have the privilege of knowing Malcolm personally, his legacy really does speak to me as if I did, because I now know many who did know him so very well and who loved him deeply and who treasured their friendship with Malcolm and with Phyllis. When so many people describe the same qualities, such as integrity, loyalty, and devotion, you begin to understand something of the special strength of the life a person lived. And you can even feel a bit as if you knew them. Malcolm was born in 1937 in Philadelphia to Charles and Lillian, the oldest brother to Bert, Mayor, and Joyce. His childhood near Broad and Girard meant extended family was always nearby, where connection was anticipated and love was lived out in frequent gatherings and mutual care. Those early lessons, as you've already heard reflected today, stayed with him for his whole life. Family stays close, family shows up and takes care of one another and does so always. He attended Rutgers Camden and later Seton Hall Law School. And I'm told, thanks to Joyce's truly fortuitous matchmaking, he met Phyllis, who was then at Temple. Around here, you don't have to specify that that's a university and not a synagogue. And indeed, he made a very fine impression, and you were married just a year later. Chuck, of blessed memory, arrived in 1969, Les in 1973. Both of them were sources of such tremendous pride. Malcolm was truly devoted to his children, celebrating milestones, supporting your choices, leading by example. One detail you shared captured so much, which is that he was home just about every night for family dinner. He might go back to work afterward, but first came conversation, presence, and love, a quiet but powerful declaration of the most lofty priorities. At your warm weather escape down in Palm Air, friendships flourished, and later, of course, you relocated to Texas to be close to Les and Mary, and let's face it, especially to Charlie and Molly, who became your greatest joy. Malcolm took very seriously the blessing of being your pop-pop. He created individual bonds with each grandchild, making sure that they felt valued, known, and loved in their own unique way. And as you are even now clearly demonstrating, Les, you are humbly devoted to keeping the family close and ensuring that connection remains a priority for generations to come. That continuity is one of the deepest expressions of the values that your dad and mom built into the foundation of this special family. However Malcolm lived, Jewish community was indeed home. Here with us at Bethel and in every chapter of your lives, your involvement created friendships that lasted decades. You lived what we hope every one of our young families will learn, which is that when your closest relationships grow out of your connection to synagogue life, that connection to a synagogue can be multi-generational and lifelong. Malcolm also supported Israel, traveling there regularly, Jewish organizations, because for him, love of the Jewish people meant responsibility and commitment. It wasn't just a feeling, it was something to be lived out in action. Your travel together, especially to places other than Israel, was also fondly remembered, not simply to see new places, but to fill your life with meaning, and as you said, so you would have much to look back on and talk about later on, as you did so very frequently. You made marvelous use of the time God gave you to see the world together. Professionally, as you heard from those who know so much better than I, Malcolm built a career that was defined by respect. He began a little while back in family law and then found long-term fulfillment in commercial real estate. He worked indeed with partners he admired and assistants who remained devoted for decades. His work mattered because it helped others, and he loved that part of his work. When someone so steady and so very decent invests in people, they invest right back. Malcolm didn't need to demand respect. It was what he earned, doing so quietly, consistently, and genuinely as well. I want to acknowledge that this chapel here at Platts, which has helped and stood by and supported so many through difficult moments, no doubt brings back memories today also of the saddest task of all that you faced together, saying goodbye to Chuck, causing the deepest pain to so many, and of course also to Malcolm. That is a grief that never fully dissipates. And yet the ways that you have honored Chuck's memory with generosity, purpose, and love, it has strengthened others. In just a short while, Malcolm will rest beside his beloved son, reunited for all eternity. This week we are reading from the Torah portion of Vayetze. Jacob has left home. He is anxious about what lies ahead. He dreams as a ladder connecting earth and heaven. When he awakens, he realizes he has been standing on sacred grounds. And as we noted yesterday at your Bethel, as we read this Torah portion of Vayetze, after he wakes up, he names that place. He names it Beit-El. He names it Bethel. He names it the house of God. And our congregation carries that name forward in a very real way. Malcolm brought holiness into the ordinary places where he lived his life, turning homes and offices and dinner tables and family gatherings into spaces of blessing and of the deepest connection. He built, in a way, ladders between the generations. Like a ladder, he elevated others by his presence. He indeed leaves the world a better place than he found it, which is a universal and a Jewish goal toward which we might strive with greater effectiveness because of the example that he set. Malcolm lived his 88 years with purpose. His presence steadied others, and his love strengthened all of you. And his example will continue to teach all of us. He understood intuitively a profound truth, which is that the only things that we truly get to keep are the things that we give away, because they are the only things that cannot be taken away from us. And the love, loyalty, and guidance Malcolm gave will continue to shape so many lives, including the ones that his grandchildren will touch far into the future. Phyllis, as Les noted, with I know such pride and affirmation, you and Malcolm did mark 59 years of marriage just this past Sunday. You built a lifetime of shared devotion. So we extend our deepest condolences to you, to Les, and to Mary, to Malcolm's siblings, Bert, and to Harriet, to Mayor and Desi, and to Joyce, and to the entire family, to Ellen, your family, to Charlie and Molly, and to all those who feel this loss so personally and so profoundly. We say, Tei nishmatot Rabbi Tzrachim, may Malcolm's soul be bound up in the bond of eternal life. May he rest in peace, and let us say, Amen. I want to note that following the interment at Crescent, all are invited back to Bethel for the beginning of Shiva. And tonight the family will gather at the home of Ellen Podell with a service at 7 o'clock p.m. At her home. Again, Bethel following interment, after which Shiva continues at Ellen's home with a service tonight at 7 o'clock. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit for the El Maleh memorial prayer. El Maleh Rachamim Shochen Bamrumim, Hamitzei Menucha Nechona Tacha Kanfei Ashchina, B'ma'alot Kedoshim Utorim Kazor Rakia Mazhirim and Ishmat Moshe Chaim Ben Yechezkel, Shalach Le'olamo, B'gan Eidete Menuchato, Anabala Rachamim Astirei B'Seiter Kanafecha Le'olamim, Utzor B'Tzrach Chaim and Ishmato, Adonai Hunach Lato V'Yanoch B'Shalom Amishkavo V'Nomar Amen. Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure, to the soul of Malcolm Trobman, who has gone to his eternal home. Merciful one, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May his soul be bound up in the bond of life. May he rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. I invite you to be seated for another few moments.